Hanhart has a new model, a just released new model, and it is the Aqausphere Freefall Blue. Now, this one may look somewhat familiar to fans of Hanhart who have seen or maybe even own the Fly Navy model. And while these two watches do share the same case and movement, the bezel insert, the dial, and the hands are completely different. This one isn't a limited edition either. This is going to be part of the regular lineup from Hanhart, and it is essentially their first dive watch. Now, I say that because there was a Primus chrono diver I reviewed many years ago, but that wasn't really a true dive watch, at least not in the traditional design people think of when you say dive watch. And spoiler alert, I love this Aqausphere. I think this is a big leap for the brand, possibly a major risk for the brand as well, but they have done an excellent job in blending traditional Hanhart design into a modern diver, and I hope this is the first of many. Pricing should be around the $1,950 mark in the US, and I believe around $1,730 if bought through Europe, as pricing in the US is a little higher because of import and taxes, etc. But this 42mm Aqausphere diver is something else, so don't go anywhere. Let's dive in and check this out. And before we get started, I have a few things of note. One, this watch was sent to me quite a few weeks ago, so I had time to look it over, wear it, and photograph it, but I did not have any of the exact specs or press release on it until kind of the last minute. So I will have the corrected specs in the card on the video, but if I say something wrong, including the price, my apologies. Also, and this should go without saying, but for the newer viewers to the channel, I did say I love this watch, and I do, but that doesn't mean I won't be critical of it either. I always give my honest opinion, and rarely do I find any watch to be absolutely perfect. Okay, with all of that out of the way, I'll put all the specs here on screen, and let's talk about this new Hanhart beauty. Now, I'm not sure what finally made the German brand to decide to make a dive watch, but I'm glad that they did. And honestly, if they had told me at one point they were planning a true dive watch, I don't know what I would have pictured in my head, but I doubt it would have been this. This Aqausphere has sort of a Breitling-esque look about it. Now, especially with the way they did the dial indices and the numbers, and even that bezel has a Breitling Super Ocean style vibe. Not the current version of it, but I believe one of the previous models. I'll put up a pic on screen of the one I'm thinking about. And for one, I am fine with that. This isn't a copy of a Breitling by any means, but it does have a little of that vibe, and I love the large 12 and the rectangle-ish indices, and what is a fairly clean and uncluttered dial. Now, when the Fly Navy came out and I saw it, I was like, wait, a diver from Hanhart. I was so excited. And then I looked at it and, well, let's just say it wasn't my style at all. Now, I mean, everything is subjective, anyways. And not long after, I got an email from Hanhart about this one, and I was blown away. The case, the bracelet, and the crown are the same, but it's a completely new handset, dial, and bezel insert, and it makes all the difference. The dial has a very fine matte texture, and I hope the color is coming across on camera properly. This is not a radiant blue or a dark navy blue, but somewhat muted, and I'm not sure what the Pantone is, but it's a great understated hue. The applied indices with the metal borders provide enough pop so that the dial still stands out, but I appreciate that both the color and the matte texture. As you can see, this is a no-date dial as well, and yes, it is a no-date movement also. The hands, well, they're a little odd. I'm not sure what I would call them in terms of shape, but I do like them, and I do prefer them to the hands they used on the Fly Navy. These are a new handset for Hanhart, and one thing is for sure, they are bold and easy to read, and they have quite a lot of detail and finish work to them when you get up close. Something I absolutely love is that Hanhart didn't ruin the vibe of this watch with a glossy ceramic bezel. So many brands would have, and while glossy ceramic looks great on a lot of watches, I think it would have really hurt the look of this one, and thus we have a matte ceramic bezel insert. The markers and stencil numbers are bold and easy to read, And of course, Hanhart made sure to add that signature red bezel marker around the bezel triangle. And I believe this is anodized aluminum instead of the more traditional enamel Hanhart uses. But for those that know, they will know this is a Hanhart just by that bezel. Both the bezel action and the crown are incredibly smooth. Now let's start with the crown. This is not a COSC movement or anything, and in reality, in the world of watches, not the most expensive watch at just about $2,000, but this is one smooth crown. It's large enough for those with bigger hands, and the grip is enough to dig into your fingers, but not enough to hurt you. Beyond that, the action is just very smooth when screwing and unscrewing and winding the movement. Same with the bezel. The coin edge and the height of the bezel provide the perfect amount of purchase. And this is a 60 click bezel, not 120, but it feels just great to turn. And I don't really notice any wiggle or backplay, which is the way it should be on a $2,000 watch. Now, when we get to the case sides, things get interesting. As you can see, there is a helium escape valve for those of us who like to pretend we are saturation divers. And for those that are and are watching this and will be in a dive habitat soon, if you get one of these, let me know how it works. But the interesting part is not that. It's the case design and the finish. This is not the first brand to do this cutout style case. I don't know what the technical term for it is. I call it a cutout style case. A few others have done this, and I would say it's a little on the rarer side. Now, one example, as it's fresh in my mind from the images I've recently seen, is the Formex Stratos UTC. As you can see, the finishing is similar, but that is a full border design. Hanhart went for a half cutout style, with the inner portion being finely blasted, which then transitions into the brushed finish, while a polished chamfer swoops in on top, coming from around the bottom of the bezel area. When this watch first arrived, before it was put on the shelf for a bit, I guess in my head this was a full border design, but then when I started taking pictures of it and wearing it, I realized this cutout kind of fades out. Now, I have to be real. I'm not sure I love this transition into the brushed finish, or I guess more correctly, how the brushed finish overlaps into the blasted finish and cutout a little. Part of me wishes this cutout ended with a succinct border, but as an opposing opinion, my wife says she likes it and feels it looks better without a defined edge to it. What say you? Get in the comments and let me know your opinion on how this was done and what you think of the finishing. One thing I really like and I have no issues with, though, is the case back. It showcases the scene of an underwater world, and as many of you know, I love a nice solid case back, and I really love what Hanhart has done here. It's just beautiful to look at, and it's well embossed and finished. Now, inside that case pack is an SW200-1. That's a Salida movement for some that aren't all geeky like us and know every movement by the numbers like we do. And functionally, I have no problem with this watch. As I said, the crown is just super smooth, as is setting the time. And I've not had any issues with the accuracy or anything. But I don't know what grade this movement is at the time. And part of me wishes at this price that it was a COSC movement. Tony does this at a very similar price point, and it would have been a welcome upgrade on this Aqausphere as well. The strap offerings will look the same as far as I know. You could choose either the hook nylons type strap or this stainless steel bracelet. Now, I was sent the bracelet model, as you can see, and I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe this is the same exact bracelet as used on the last model of Hanhart I reviewed, the 417ES. I think the end links are probably different to fit this new case, but it does look to be the same bracelet and clasp otherwise. And when I reviewed that watch about a year and a half ago, I think I was just so glad to finally see a new proper bracelet from Hanhart, I overlooked some of the finer details. The bracelet is solid, of course, it feels great, there's no issue there, and it's easy to size with screw links. I think my real issue is the clasp. The brushed finish looks a touch rough on this, in my opinion, and in 2024, it would be nice to see the hidden extension style clasp and not just three micro adjust holes. It does have a traditional dive extension though, and the lugs have quick release bars to easily remove and reattach the bracelet. On my 7.5 inch or 19.05 centimeter wrist, the Aquasphere wears, well, like a dream. I love how this 42 millimeter watch looks and feels on my wrist, and the lug to lug is just under 50 millimeter at 49. And despite my nitpicking about the clasp, the bracelet is very comfortable and it flows well with the case. Though I do wonder how a Hanhart fitted rubber strap would look on this watch. Hanhart, I know you're watching. Start thinking about that for the next run. A darker blue fitted rubber strap would be excellent. Speaking of that, I don't know offhand if this will be the only color available. The Fly Navy only came in one color, but this is a standard model. Maybe there will be others down the line, but I think it is releasing in just this blue at this time. And lastly, we have the Loom, and you know what? This time for a change, I'm just going to shut up and let you see how this Aquasphere glows in the dark. Yeah, that is some nice Loom for sure, and this is a pretty damn nice watch as well. Like I said at the beginning, I love this watch. I think Hanhart did an absolute phenomenal job on their first real dive watch, and I can't wait to see future variations of it. The case side transitions and the clasp are the only real areas I took issue with, and both of those things are pretty subjective. And of course, feel free to disagree with me down in the comments below. A like, a comment, and subscribing to this channel and turning on notifications is all appreciated, and it really helps us out here. Plus, you'll never miss another review. There will be a written review, and for even more info, you can head over to the Hanhart website, both linked down in the description. This is Don Evans from Watch Report. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.